So today we're going to be talking about loan out, which is a form of engagement that's used commonly in film and TV, sometimes referred to as personal service companies. So why are we talking about loan outs today, and why have these been prevalent in the film and TV industry?
So loan outs are used commonly through the film and TV industry. They're used by everyone from high-level talent to HODs to below-the-line crew. Even people that are on kind of short-form engagements, maybe on a work-for-hire basis, like your painters and artists, they might wish to be engaged via a loan out. They actually emerged like over a century ago in the US, and they were kind of created or came out of the artists and sports people that were working across lots of jurisdictions around the world. And because they were working in kind of geographically disparate and variable places and their income streams were hard to harmonise, the loan out kind of came from that. And the primary reason they're used now is tax efficiency.
So put simply, B, what is a loan out?
So it's kind of as it's what it says on the tin. It's where a company loans out the services of an individual. So rather than engaging me, B, directly, you would engage my company, B Services Limited, and that company would loan me out.
Okay. And why would someone want to use this sort of engagement?
Well, as we said at the top, the kind of key benefit is tax. So the company would get paid that tax gross, would get paid the full amount gross, and without holiday pay being withheld. So people just kind of for cash flow and tax efficiency reasons might want to engage via a company. There's also the point that if you have a company, you can draw down from that company in dividends and take potentially lower tax rates if you meet the kind of restrictions on income. And over the years, if you had a kind of big payment coming into that loan out company, you could split, each year how much you remove from the company. Yep. So it's essentially tax efficiency and cash flow. And there are benefits for the production company as well, of course, aren't there?
Yeah, that's right. Historically, it's been a tax benefit that you would often get from using these mechanisms. I think the sort of tax benefits have largely disappeared due to sort of recent changes to the IR35 rules. So I suppose that the major benefits with these sorts of arrangements today is that you potentially have an arrangement where a lot of the employment rights and employment benefit considerations are potentially going to be the responsibility of the loan out company or personal service company rather than the actual end user client. So that's potentially quite a significant benefit using these engagements.
And there are cons, of course, aren't there, Seth?
Yeah, there's potentially cons for both the production company and the individual. So from the individual's perspective, administratively it's perhaps a little bit more complicated. They might need to get an accountant to sort of help set up the company and sort of deal with the admin, any sort of accounts considerations. So potentially that's a little bit more complex if someone's not used to doing that. From the production company's side, obviously now, as I've mentioned earlier, you've got IR35 to consider, which sort of adds a bit of complexity. You've also got to make sure that the arrangement's structured really well, so drafted properly, you're ensuring appropriate pass-through for rights, IP considerations, and also that you're actually properly engaging with the loan-out company rather than some of these arrangements where actually they look a little bit like a loan-out contract, but actually it's more of a direct hire arrangement, and that can have its own difficulties as well.
And you touched upon IR35 there. Can you kind of give us a bit more detail?
Yeah, of course. I think probably a lot of you out there probably are interested in IR35, have heard about it. I imagine most of you probably know what it is. But if you don't, it's been around for a while actually. We've been dealing with IR35 since 2000. The Labour government back then originally introduced it. And the idea behind it is to try and sort of capture some of the sort of lost employment taxes that you might get with these types of arrangements, so these sort of different types of engaging of individuals and talent. Now, the problem with IR35 is it never used to work in the way that it was intended. HMRC just didn't have the resource to sort of essentially pursue these employment taxes. So they amended it and sort of in April 2021 to try and push some of that liability and responsibility for assessing tax onto the end client. And it's really significant in the film and TV industry because given the propensity of loan outs, it's something now that all productions need to be considering carefully when using these.
And didn't the government talk about scrapping IR35 rules at some point?
Yeah, they did. I mean, I think if anyone remembers Trussonomics, I think they talked about a lot of things. They didn't really follow through with many of them. So I think there was probably a lot of people who got excited that IR35 might be on the way out. But no, it's back, and I don't think it's going anywhere. Obviously, we've talked about kind of some of the risks with loan outs. I mean, what can production companies sort of actually do practically to sort of minimise those?
Yeah, so the main thing is to make sure that the loan out is correctly structured, so that it'll be correctly characterised as a loan out engagement and not incorrect as potentially a direct hire engagement. What you want there, ideally, is a long form loan out agreement. Sometimes we get asked to draft conversion or wrapper versions, which is where you kind of take a direct hire agreement and add a paragraph or a wrapper around it to try and make it a loan out agreement. Now, these can be tricky, we do them, but they kind of carry a higher risk that it's going to be characterised in a way you don't want it to be. And so even in a long form loan out agreement, you want to make sure that it's clear who the relationship, the contractual relationship is with. So with the loan out entity, you don't want any inference that, you know, the kind of individual is a, you know, employee or worker of the company. And you want to make it clear who the payments are going to. They shouldn't be going to the individual, they should be going to the company. And then the most important point, which has to be in an agreement, is the inducement letter. And so that's where the individual signs the inducement, where they're acknowledging kind of the terms of the loan out agreement, they're agreeing to stand behind them and to kind of comply with them, and most essentially the pass-through of the rights that we discussed earlier. And so what do you think the future of loan outs is? Are they here to stay?
I mean, I think they are, frankly. I think that there will always be a need for some type of engagement like this. I mean, whether it is exactly the same as how loan outs operate at the moment, I don't know. Potentially it could change. I mean, one thing that's quite clear is that the law does change fairly rapidly in this area. I mean, we've had obviously new IR35 rules in the last couple of years. There potentially could be changes to those with a new government coming in, if that's what we're looking at in a few years' time. We're regularly getting new decisions both in the tax and the employment tribunals around status and sort of the things that you need to look out for from a status perspective. So I think there's quite a lot for clients to be monitoring in this area and probably sort of need to get advice on as well. One of the most interesting developments actually we've seen over the last sort of few months is from individuals engaged via loan outs on productions, whether that's sort of behind the camera talent or even sort of front of camera talent, actually bringing tribunal claims, and that could be things like unfair dismissal that we've seen recently. We've seen discrimination claims, and it's quite complicated actually to sort of work through the legal analysis around sort of how those claims are structured, whether you've got any jurisdictional arguments to push back on, and also reputational considerations around sort of actually suggesting to people that they haven't got rights when actually that might not be the approach that a particular production or studio wants to take. So yeah, certainly a very interesting area. Well, thank you, B, for joining us for that video, and I hope that everyone who has watched found that really interesting. Now, we've got a lot more information about these sorts of things on our website, so please do check that out. And obviously, if you've got any questions for me or B, please do let us know.